Yes.
All right. Are you sure you're ready?
Yes.
Let's do this thing. All right. So go ahead and tell the people what's your name, your age, and where you from.
My name is Precious Violet, and I'm 37. I'm from Ohio originally.
What are your favorite things to do on your downtime?
My favorite things to do on my downtime would be research, and that includes biblical things and also just random things that pop into my mind, like fitness things or archery or anything like that, weightlifting, exercise stuff.
So it would be safe to say you're not the type of person that's just going to take something at face value. You're going to research it. You're going to make sure it's legit.
All the way through.
Yes, that's a Berean, y'all. If y'all didn't know, she is a Berean for real. You're not just going to tell her something. She's going to look it up. She's going to look at the Hebrew, the Greek, the history, all that. So you better come correct. What are 3 things that you could not live without?
3 things I couldn't live without.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the physical things would be in a category of survival stuff like water, food, and oxygen.
Okay.
And then I would say a support system.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And faith.
A support system. Go into depth a little bit. What do you mean about a support system?
I've had certain points in my life where I've had support systems that really helped me. And without those support systems, I wouldn't be maybe even here.
Right.
But I know what it's like to not to kind of like just be all by yourself.
Right.
So it's something special to have support.
If you had one thing, hold on. If you had to eat one thing every day, what would it be?
So this question I kind of debated back on because I really like Mexican food a lot and Asian too.
Yeah.
So I was thinking either pozole.
Okay, so it's called
pozole.
Pozole.
Yes, it's kind of like a soup. It's like a caldo.
Okay, so
Spanish.
Okay, so
either that or street tacos.
Street tacos. Now, I know about some street tacos. That's what I'm talking
about. Authentic ones, yes.
Yes. All right, so pozole or street tacos is something you can eat every day.
Every day.
All right, every day, no problem. You
no
eat it.
problem.
Okay. Who is your favorite Bible character and why?
My favorite Bible character is Daniel.
Okay.
Because no matter what, he depended on God and he was able to be a good servant both low and high. And also because Daniel, he's basically unmoved by what was around him, and he still, no matter what kind of threats were happening, he still remained faithful.
How did you come to know the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yahusha HaMashiach, who the world calls Jesus?
I always knew about Jesus, and I grew up in the faith, but I did not stay in the faith. And so just recently, as in earlier this year, I came back to the faith, came back to believing in Jesus again.
Right. So you basically had somewhat of a prodigal son story.
Yes.
But it was a prodigal daughter story. So you grew up with a solid understanding of the faith.
Solid.
Christ, all that good stuff. But there came a point in your life where you chose to go your own way. You chose to do your own thing. And many of us, whether small or great, I know that we've all had seasons of our life where we might think that we know better. We might think that, this route may be better, but nevertheless we realize, this ain't the best thing. And then you find yourself so far gone, you're like, how on earth can I get back? Some people don't want to come back, but the Most High's like, no, I'm going to call you back. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So basically you would say that overall your story was like the prodigal son.
I would say that, very much so, almost textbook.
So what happened for you to get back to where you're at in this point of your life?
It was a process. I don't think it was just one event, but I think it was all leading up, getting closer to my sister.
Right.
And then coming out here to visit. I think that was the huge milestone, was coming out here to visit those 3 times prior, and then with Sister Stephanie talking to me about the gospel and just seeing how everyone behaved here, especially the young men, just the love that everybody showed to me.
Right.
Because that was a period of time where I was basically alone, even though I had friends. I met friends here in Dallas.
Yeah.
Mostly in the LGBTQ community, and then also some people that I met at Spanish-speaking clubs.
Right.
Not like a club, but like a group of people who study Spanish, not in the club.
Gotcha.
So, okay, just make that known. But the psychotic break that I had, that was something that when I encountered that situation, I knew that this might be my last chance, and I also knew that I needed help.
So let's give the people just a brief history on some things, so that way they know fully what was going on. There was a time span, because obviously I'm married to your sister,
Okay.
And there was a time span where you just did not like me. There was things that was being said from other parties, and we went, I think, 10 plus years without
Yes.
talking. We never had an argument. We never had a fallout. It was nothing like that. It was simply something that someone said. And for over 10 years, we didn't talk, but you said that there were some things going on with your mom, and then that allowed you and your sister to start getting, close again, communicating and stuff like that. And then slowly but surely, one thing led to another. You came out here to visit. What was it like when you came out here to visit that first time? Regardless of the history that we had of, we didn't talk and stuff like that. What happened? What did you experience when you came out here at Zion's Refuge for the first time?
Oh, the very first time, I pulled up into the driveway out here in the country at night. And I was just intending to drop off some items because I was getting ready for Mexico.
Right.
Also getting rid of some things that were left behind by someone else.
Right.
So my intent was just with that purpose. I was not intending to come in or anything like that. But you came out too, and you were super nice to me. And you were telling me that if I wanted to stay and just chill and fellowship, that I'm more than welcome to. And I was like, man, I haven't talked to this guy in all these years, and he's still being super nice to me. Gave me a hug.
Yeah.
Just show me love, and I was like, wow, So that right there just was different. And also, I hugged my sister. I just felt emotional. I just felt like crying. I think I probably was crying when I pulled up, like after experiencing that.
Yeah.
But I know for sure when I was leaving, I was crying.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
So basically, and this is what I want people that are listening to know, is that it's not always about trying to preach. It's not always about trying to, bring the Bible out and let's have a lesson. We need to learn to love each other. We need to learn to be able to just treat people with honor, with respect and love, and you let the Most High take care of the rest. And so she said when she came out here, we loved on her. Everybody was respectful to her. And those were the things that the Most High used to prick away kind of the hardness at her heart a little bit. And she wanted to come back, right? I mean, you wanted to come back and visit and spend time with your family. I mean, you had your nephews, you got your sister. We were kind of rekindling our relationship, and there was a whole bunch of love that was going around. And then eventually, I believe you said you had talked to Stephanie a little bit, right? And she was kind of talking about, some spiritual stuff. Now, tell the people what had happened if I would have approached you with a preacher mindset, or trying to save you again, or trying to rededicate you to God, and I'm trying to be all aggressive. How would you have reacted to that?
I would have been very upset. I would have just straight walked out maybe. I would have just probably said, thank you all. I just think I'm tired. I'm just going to go back home. It's a far drive.
Right.
And just gotten out because I didn't want to hear about anything about Jesus. At that point, I felt like every religion was a cult. And so just... if anybody has said anything like that, I would have felt like it was being forced, and I didn't want to be forced. So I think that there is a time to be forceful, and then there's a time to just let a person just be, and then talk to them like in a comfortable way, instead of just saying Jesus. Basically, that can push somebody away.
Yes, you can.
That would have pushed me away for a fact. But I did give, like, in my head, my sister has said this, because I told her, and I told Sister Kay and whoever else, Sister Stephanie, whoever else I would tell the testimony about. I gave Sister Stephanie a pass in my head because she had just suffered a loss of her mom. So if it hadn't been for that situation also, maybe I would have been offended by Sister Stephanie sharing the things that she did. But she was doing it in love. But even if you do things in love, sometimes it can be taken the wrong way if a person's not ready to receive.
That's right.
But with her, like, even though she said the things that she said, at the moment I was thinking, I'm just going to get through this. But the things that she was saying was what I needed to hear.
Right.
And later on, when I left that day and days that followed and weeks that followed, I still remember some of the things that she said. So, and that had me just ruminating, because just because you leave a faith doesn't mean that you don't forget the things that you learned And then there's some things that I personally held true,
right,
even though I did leave the faith.
Mm-hmm. So with that, basically it's a testimony of how you can love someone to a place of getting right with God again. It's not about, like you said, there are times where a person will need to be stern, but a lot of times people just need to be in an environment where they know, okay, when I'm ready, this is where I can go, this is where I can be. But nevertheless, you can't be playing games with it either.
Yes.
It's like a person has to be ready to get their lives right with the Most High, because when he comes back, his son, he's not coming back as the lamb, he's coming back as a lion. So people got to understand time is short. We got to get this thing right. So from the time that you were a wayward daughter, and then you start to develop a relationship again with your sister, you began to come around here and visit Zion's Refuge, you felt the love and things like that. What was a breaking point for you to where you realized you had to get yourself together with the Most High again? Because you said that you thought every religion was a cult, you don't want to hear none of this Jesus stuff, you don't want to hear none of that, you just want to live your life. What were some things that happened, or whatever you want to discuss, what happened that brought you to the place where you're at now, where you're a representation of a woman of holiness and righteousness, and you're willing to learn the things of God and obey His commandments and stuff? What led you to that?
Okay, so I think this kind of leads into what I was brought out of.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like me to discuss that?
Absolutely. Okay. Whatever is on your heart to tell the people what you came out of.
All right. I would love to, because I think this will help a lot of people. And some of it I am shameful of, and some of it I just feel like God had me go through it for a reason, even though it's my choice.
Right.
But so I would definitely say alternative spiritualism, and that includes the research and practice of tarot cards and astrology, as well as candle magic and moon omens and rituals. It would include the beginning of candle magic, and also with studying occult stuff and old religions, and also watching a whole bunch of documentaries about cults and things like that.
Yeah.
It would also include homosexual behaviors. I did identify for several years as a bisexual, and I was in a relationship with a trans man. We started the relationship with that person being female, and then having top surgery and having hormones, which I helped this person through that process. To myself, also still identifying as a woman and having the pronouns as she and her, but I would dress in both masculine and feminine ways, meaning I would have on men's dress shoes and dress socks, and maybe a feminine top, but men's pants, or mix and match, or just completely masculine or completely feminine. But I would do all those types of things, and I colored my hair all types of natural hair colors. I do Latin dance and things like that, but sensual things. I bodybuild. I was doing that, so on stage pretty much naked, being judged, wanting to be judged, posting those things on my social media when there's people who have husbands and wives, or however, children, you don't know. I mean, I had old people in there that, I met from ministry. And I still posted those things. And all the posts and things that I posted about astrology and tarot reading and being a green witch, or whatever else I thought was a good thing and wasn't a good thing. And definitely I would say the twin flame journey and the soulmate stuff, that's just a complete fallacy, fairy tale, and would like to just caution people on going down those journeys.
Now let's be honest with it. Tell the people, is this stuff, everything that you mentioned, because there's people who are actually in
crystals,
the faith that think that it's okay to deal with crystals, to deal with the tarot cards, to deal with the horoscopes and all this stuff. Being where you're at now in the faith, can you confidently say that that stuff is not of the Most High?
Yes, I can confidently say it. I can say that's basically sorcery, because it's a person who wants control and who wants to know more things than they ought to know. So some things are they even say it in the tarot, basically like this is the divine feminine or the divine masculine, but there's only one divine, and that divine is the one above, the true one above. So there's some things I know that even in the Bible, there was people who studied the stars and knew the times. But there are people who take it a bit beyond. Just like, I believe, was it King Solomon or somebody who sought out a witch, and she knew, and she actually was able to speak to the dead, or Elijah or somebody.
That was Saul.
Saul. Okay. So yeah, I mean, even that was an instance in the Bible where it was condemned. So yes, those things are real. Some people even think that that's a joke, like the tarot cards and stuff. Like, haha, you believe in that? But some of that stuff is so on point. But that stuff is things that we're not supposed to know, and things we're not supposed to touch, because in a certain way, a person can become prideful in it, and also it can suck you in and take you down a path that you didn't even see yourself going, like further and further into darkness, meaning further and further down the route into witchcraft, into especially with the black women, returning to the roots of witchcraft, and also the worship of old African deities. So all that happens, it can all just start out with just finding out your birth time and your birth chart, and it's like, oh wow, this is cool. What's my compatibility with this person or these people? And then it just leads to one thing to next. Next thing you know, you get psychic readings. Next thing you know, you're searching up crystals, crystal meanings, and all this other stuff. So I would caution against going down those routes.
And it's really a search for power. It's a search for belonging. It's a search for, like, and here's the thing people got to get. This stuff is real. Like, it's not like, you go to a tarot card reading, or you're looking at something with a horoscope and it's just completely off. I'm very aware that stuff like this is real, and it's on point, and it's a knowledge that we're not supposed to be privy to. We're not supposed to have access to information to know every little nuance about different individuals based off when they were born and stuff like that. We know that if the Holy Spirit comes upon us and allows us to have that knowledge or prophesy over a person, that's one thing. But we're not supposed to go and say, okay, the stars are positioned this way, so this person is doing this, and we can figure out what they're going to do by what the star. We're not supposed to be accessing that kind of information. So basically, you were out there. I mean, you were in a world that is very much alive, is very much thriving. It's something that does have power attached to it. However, with that stronghold, the Most High he shows himself powerful enough to bring you out of that. He put you in a situation to where you basically had no choice but to surrender to him. And he'll do that. He'll put people in situations where, you have to say, okay, Father, either I want you or I don't. And basically, with the line of events that you've shared with us, he brought you to a place in your life where you realized, I need you. Like, I have strayed. This is what I've done. And Father, I want you back. And so you had a moment where when you came back here, you were able to get that support that you were talking about. You were able to talk to people and get stuff off your chest and confess. We know the Bible talks about confession. You were prayed for. And the next thing we know, that each week you're beginning to grow. But in those weeks of growth, you're having battles, you're having struggles, as we all do, right? So once you began to get over that hump of what we know as deliverance or being set free, how has it been at Zion's Refuge? Because eventually you came out here and you moved on the land with us and stuff like that. So how has it been compared to what you've seen maybe on television as it relates to people who are in communities and stuff like that? What could you tell the people from your perspective as it relates to a spirit-led community where Christ is the head and the people that are here are just hungry for the Most High? What's your experience been like?
Okay, so I have to also, to answer that question, put it out there that I did have a major mental break. That it was a slow process after like the third visit when I came here. Nothing previous to me in my life have I ever experienced anything like this, where I started hearing voices escalating to being paralyzed on the bed, not moving, and seeing hallucinations, thinking that I'm a supercomputer and things like that. Quitting my job because I felt like I was being surveilled by my neighbors and this and that, and things like, and reporting things to my boss, reporting things to the head of security at my work, reporting things to my office managers at my apartment community because of the voices and experiences that I was hearing that I thought was real. So that is what actually brought me to Zion's Refuge and broke me, because I was not even at that, I was not even in those moments of hearing all those voices and being terrified on my mind. I never even prayed to God once that I remember. I never said, Jesus, help me, or anything like that. I didn't even answer my phone or anything when my sister called me or text me. Nothing. I didn't even get out of my bed to see my phone. Didn't eat, didn't move, didn't drink water. Completely sore from being locked in my bed in a fixed position. So that's what I'm talking about, like real deliverance.
Right.
So I had to drive here because my sister said, won't you just come? So this is the whole thing. When somebody is offering you a chance to come out and to basically save your life, it's good to just say yes and just do it, instead of making up excuses or saying you're not ready, because that could be your last chance. And I felt like that was my last chance. Either I was going to end up in a hospital, a mental hospital, and be like that forever, or like I saw it in my head, or I could be dead, or I can just go and do what she said, like just come out, whatever, just come out. I didn't even hardly pack anything. I didn't have a toothbrush. I didn't have a change of clothes. I just came as I was, and I was still wearing men's pants, men's shoes. So I came out here driving while I was hearing the voices. So anything could have happened. That was over like almost a 2-hour job or something like that, because that was during rush hour traffic. And I was taking the back roads at that time. So anything could have happened, but I still drove while I was hearing those voices actively. And when I got here, I was greeted by my sister and Pastor Regine. And then later, when I came inside here, where we're at, where we fellowship sometimes, the sisters were here waiting for me. And at that point, like, I was a little bit like uncomfortable, as far as I thought that I was just going to talk to my sister. But at that point, I really didn't care. It was just like I need help. So yeah, it's embarrassing to talk about things, especially when it relates to mental health things, because that's something that a lot of judgment usually comes in, or the ostracization, where people don't want to be close to it because it is something that makes people uncomfortable. Even though a lot of people go through those things and they take pills or they end up being hospitalized. So anyways, I thought, well, it's a possibility I could be judged, but I really am struggling here. So all while I was here in this room, I was hearing loud voices. And it was hard to focus, but I still talked and I still listened. Like, I had to put all my effort into paying attention, because it was very strong. I was prayed over, and I had to confess, and I had to decide. Pastor Regina asked me, do you take Jesus now to be your Lord and Savior? And to confess my things, and I had to say yes. Like, I had to say yes. And I also prayed at that time, God, please help my unbelief, because yes, I wanted to believe, but I felt like my belief was so little. But I also needed help. So I feel like if I wasn't thrown in that situation, I probably would not be back. Like, for a fact. And then later on to find out many months later, how many, like February, March, April, May, June, July, like 6 months later, that you had prayed for me, like a year or two later, before you want to tell us.
I prayed basically because me and my wife, we were praying in the living room, and all of a sudden I had a picture of Precious that popped in my head, and I began to pray for her, that the Most High would put her in a situation where she had no choice but to depend on Him. She had no choice but to specifically actually be with us, to be on the land of Zion's Refuge. And I knew that even with me not talking to her for over 10 years, that was just like, okay, Father. But at the end of the day, I knew what I needed to pray for, and that's what I prayed for. And then that was it. I had never prayed for her again after that, not on purpose. It was just, there was nothing that I had felt led to pray for. I prayed that one time, and then I gave it to the Most High. And then the next thing I know, a few years later, after the fact, I realized that after everything had began to kind of die down, and now she's getting settled at Zion's Refuge, I was like, oh snap, like this was actually prayed for. years before this had even happened. So that's just a testimony of how when people, pop up in your head out of nowhere, it's not for you to think about, bad stuff that might have happened or begin to judge somebody. It's actually an opportunity to pray for them, because it can be life or death. You never know what somebody might be going through or an attack that the enemy has planned for them. So I would just encourage everybody, when you have someone that pops in your head out of nowhere, pray for them, because you're looking at a testimony right now of what the power of prayer can do, because we serve a God who is still very much so in the delivering business and willing to help those who want to be helped. So, yeah.
Yes, and so we did do the calculations too. The time that you prayed was when I was starting to talk to the female.
Oh, wow.
And that's when we were starting our relationship, so the same-sex relationship.
Right.
And not long after that, I moved here to Dallas. So how Zion Refuge has impacted my life, which segues into the other part of your question, is impacted my life in a major way, outwardly and inwardly. Outwardly, you can see that I'm dressed modestly. Previously, yes, I would be showing my cleavage, wearing tight sports apparel, the leggings and things like that are in style. Or I will be still wearing both masculine and feminine clothes. Inwardly, as well as my bisexual pride gear.
Right.
LGBTQ, paraphernalia,
yeah.
support. And inwardly, I feel like I've changed a lot too. I've been humbled to the greatest degree because I had to give up everything. I had to trust in the ministry too.
Right.
With knowing that I'll be okay here.
Right.
Both like mentally, physically, having a place to put my head,
right.
food to eat. I never starved. I never anything. I have clothes. I have everything. So I basically gave up everything. I gave up my apartment. Gave up my job. Like the job thing, I gave up with my mental break. I had sold my car, and that helped out during the debt-free journey. So I had to trust that this community is where I want to be, because now I can't even escape if I wanted to. And also because that's my mode of transportation. But I saw that in the fruit that I can trust.
Right.
And everyone here has donated to help me become debt free. I have zero debt. I was, before I got here, on that journey by myself, and I took out all my money from my 401k. I was putting all my as much money as I could into getting debt free and to move to Mexico, and here I am debt free in a short amount of time than if I had been doing it by myself, that complete time. So I'm richly blessed by that, as well as I don't feel pressure to be a super achiever. Yes. Be a good servant and do what I'm told when I'm told or asked, and not grudgingly doing things, but I just have to. I've learned a lot of faith here, because I actively have to do it. But then I also learned community things where in times past I definitely would have bolted, or maybe not have cussed people out, but I probably would have said a few things, because for me it's a challenge to live with people, especially a lot of people. And then it's also a challenge because being an introvert, I can use that as a crutch too. And I can also isolate myself, and so I've been learning I can't isolate. What I can do is take quiet time in the mornings and make sure that I'm good for the rest of the day. That's what I can do. And I can also make sure that if something is bothering me, that I bring it up instead of holding on to it. And another thing that I've learned too is that support can be in many different forms. And it's a beautiful thing to see how the young men pray and live their lives, as well as being around my nephews and my sisters and Pastor Rajin, and being out here in the land and just seeing the beautiful nature. I see frogs, I see crickets, I see guineas and chickens and goats and anything imaginable, garden. get to do archery whenever I want, if I want. There's a lot of things that I've been privy to. That's wonderful. It's just nice to be out of the hustle and bustle. And the other thing too that I noticed, that I have talked to Pastor Regine, is I've never seen an example of a community that was positive, that wasn't ended up being bad.
Right.
Basically, because I have plenty of knowledge about cults. So.
All right. Well, this I believe is a great testimony, and this is really going to help a lot of people. Now, what I want to end this with is, if you had one thing that you could share with someone who's possibly where you were, they might be involved in some of the same things you were, maybe all of them. What would you say to someone who might be searching for truth, might be out there wanting to just experience the other things in life, but they're at a what's that word? It's like a wall, like they've hit a wall. They just don't know which way to turn. They don't know what they should do. What's some advice that you would give to them if you had one opportunity to speak to the women your age? Do you mind telling your age?
37.
37 years old. Women who are 37 years old, around that generation, what would you tell them?
Be wary. Basically, try things to see if it's true. I'm not saying go down the route of alternative living. What I'm saying try to be true is try Jesus. Because that is the true way. And once you encounter Jesus for real, then you'll see that all that other stuff is just bondage. You think that it can lead you to what you're seeking, but it's actually taking you further and further into darkness. Because that's how it's presented. It's presented in a way of light. You end up in these, even watching tarot videos, you feel like you're part of a community, a part of something bigger. And I personally was getting so involved that I was about to start teaching, and I had a YouTube channel where that's since deleted the content, but I was starting to teach tarot because I felt like that was helping me to self-diagnose myself.
Right.
When how you can really make yourself better is by reading God's word. There's a checklist in there, the commandments, the examples in there. Those are the true things that can help you become a better person, not the other routes, because those things, like I said, lead into further and further away from going to heaven to going to hell. And not only that, but leading other people there too, because once you're in those things, it's almost impossible not to tell somebody else about it.
Right.
So that's why I said be wary, because be wary of things, because something can present itself as light but not be light. Oh yeah,
the Bible says that Satan can masquerade himself he can appear as an angel of light. So when it comes to the stuff that Sister Precious is talking about, the tarot card, the new age, the witchcraft, it could be voodoo, whatever it is that you're involved with, you got to ask yourself, is this going to lead me to the kingdom of the Most High? Because the kingdom of the Most High is real. It's something that's existing, and the Most High Son, Christ, He's coming, and we got to get ourselves right. So, Sister Precious, I want to thank you for your awesome testimony. Thank you for your time. And I know that this is going to help some people all over the world. So shalom. And just tell everybody shalom.
Shalom.
All right.